Liftoff.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's up?
What's good?
I cannot wait to talk about my favorite
man.
film.
Okay, buddy.
Everybody's hyped up.
Yes, bring the smoke. Bring all the smoke, please.
How's you guys' Monday going?
Long
day?
Got here and rushed.
You work today?
Oh yeah, I had yeah. But you know what? What made my day longer was watching that film.
Oh
today.
God!
You watched it today?
That's
Jesus
what made it
Christ.
longer. And I was watching as I was, going to and fro. Watching it
Right.
as I was doing a template at somebody's house, and I'm just like, golly.
This is his first time with the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, this is my first time watching the Ultimate Edition all the way through. I've only seen the little segments that you guys gave me to watch when we was doing those little, when we were still doing those videos. So this is my first time watching the Ultimate Edition, and oh my God, it's got. I didn't think. Let me shut up. I'll wait.
Yeah, wait. This will be interesting because we've all, well, except for Raheem today, I think we've all seen it multiple times, right? Have you? I know I've seen it I've seen it like 50 times. So, and I watched it again today right before we hopped on.
I since I'm on vacation, I did not have time to watch it, but I feel like I didn't have time to prepare today, but I have been preparing for this for like 5 years because I have so many thoughts on this movie.
Yeah.
I'd never get to all. It is like it's just filled with topics.
Big time. Which is a good thing in my opinion.
This movie is thematic. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it is very much. All right. Y'all ready to just get into it? All right. So we're going to do it like we do every other movie. So don't rant yet, Raheem. We're going to start off initial thoughts. I guess I'll start it off since it was my pick.
You should.
There's nothing I'm going to say that's surprising. I mean, I think it's one of the best comic book movies ever made. Man of Steel is still number one for me. This one is a close second.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Man of Steel is my favorite of all time. I don't even know where to start. Like, it's so well shot. It's so well, lit. It's like there's so much detail in like almost every single scene of this movie. Like the symbolism, all the little details like in the background and like the thought process that him and Chris Terrio put into this movie, man. It's like there's no other comic book movie like this one. Like, I don't know anyone who takes, well, I shouldn't say anyone, but not very many directors take these characters as serious like as Zack does. Like they're not just like slapstick fun to him. Like he takes them serious. Like he doesn't disrespect the mythology of these characters. And like no one else takes everyone else's Superman is a joke. Like he's always been a joke. He's just like some flying dude in underwear who saves cats out of trees. Like when there's so much more to him than that, and it shows it in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's my initial thoughts. Before I'm going to start getting into my likes, but
Right.
Ellie, all right, Izzy, you go.
Okay. So my initial thoughts. Okay. So I'm going to give you two like I did last time because with Count of Monte Cristo, if you guys don't mind, because I had initial thoughts that I still remember from my introduction to the film, and then initial thoughts like 2 days ago. So my initial thoughts, first time I watched it, I'll try to keep this short. I said I thought it was the best comic book film ever made. And I don't think I was being emotional at the time. I watched it for the first time. I thought I had heard from everyone that it was terrible, so I didn't watch it. And I didn't know Zack Snyder directed it. So I found that out, and I found out there's a director's cut. And I was like, you guys are out of your mind. I'm watching that. And I'm going to decide for myself. And I watched it. And I loved it. I couldn't believe there was nothing bad that happened. There were no faults in the film. And I was like, how is this being criticized? How is this being openly criticized in such a hostile, verbal way? This is not only good, it's the best superhero film ever made. I remember saying that and everyone getting heated about it because I'm like evidently like a weird hot take factory, right? But like, that's what I thought. Okay, it's the best shot. It's the best paced. I loved Serial Killer Batman. I will not back down on that. Like I loved all of it, right? So like watching it again, my first impression was I can't believe how much I still missed. Like tiny, weird little like Easter eggs and details. And actually, you know what? I should back up a bit. I don't know that I missed it. It's that those things became apparent to me after I watched Justice League. There were things I'm like, oh, I know what that means now. Oh, right. Zach was making this watchable retroactively after you watch the other movies.
Right.
He was putting things in there. And I'm not just talking like the nightmare scene. That's obvious. Like small stuff. But I'll get into that with my likes too. There's a few Easter eggs I want to get into when I get into my likes. But I still think this might be the best superhero film ever made. The jury's still out a little bit. I got to think a little bit harder, but my gut is telling me it's still the closest to achieving what it set out to do.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it.
Right? That's how you rate it. Like you look at every superhero film, like, what'd you set out to do? How well did you do it? This is the one that did a 10 out of 10 for that. It was like, I set out to do this. I nailed it. Better than any other movie that's tried. Right? So even though like he messes with the source material a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Well, actually, maybe a lot of it. I don't know. I don't want to. There's a few other movies that are close to this as far as like nailing what they were trying to do, but I might still think this is the best one. So those are still my first impression. I just couldn't believe how much I still missed. There's like 6 or 7 like things that I was like, what? Oh man, okay, cool. Like those are my first impressions.
All right, Raw.
So my initial thoughts for the extended version. The first version, complete trash. This version made it even worse. It made it even worse. And when I say that, I felt like I feel like Zach went back and tried to answer questions he tried to answer questions from the other side of the fan base that wasn't happy with the initial movie.
Wait. Real cool. What do you mean when he went back?
So the extended version had some things. Well, I guess they took out some things that should have been in the original.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It would have been even worse anyway. So my thing is, okay, so now that we've seen Justice League extended version, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, you know, it just kind of ties in better with this movie, with the extended version. But again, you're looking at something that wasn't even a thought process for him to go back and fix a lot of things of the Zack Snyder Justice League, or Zack Snyder / Whedon Justice League. You know what I'm saying? He fixed all that and also answered some questions to go with a lot of the BVS stuff. And so yes, it made it make more sense, but at the same time, it made it more trash for the things that shouldn't have been in that movie, sequences that shouldn't have happened, actors that shouldn't have been in it. And I felt like it was worse. It was worse on this one. I did catch a few new things in that one, which I will disclose later, but my initial thoughts is extra trash. Couldn't stand it. And I hate the fact that y'all made me watch it.
Boo.
Oh,
I know, I'm the bad guy.
Boo for this guy.
I can be the bad guy, and that's fine.
Jared.
I'm done, by the way. I'm done.
So what the?
Okay. So I think I kind of have to go back to the beginning, like I did with Apes, and say my journey through these movies. Man of Steel, I did not like that at first. I have the issues with Jonathan Kent. I have the issues with him killing somebody. I have the issues with he never saves a cat out of a tree, as you just said. It wasn't like my Superman. But since I'm a comic book fan and since I love DC, I watched it multiple times because I wanted to pull something out of it I liked. And I ended up liking it more and more every time I saw it.
You talking about Man of Steel?
Huh?
You're talking about Man of Steel?
Man of Steel, yes.
Okay.
So going into Batman versus Superman, I had already figured out where Zack Snyder's version was, where it was going, what it was about, and accepted it. And I got to see it with Jason Restell, he took me to an early screening at IMAX, and I really liked it. And I was surprised because there was kind of the audience kind of walked out of there. I could tell that there wasn't a good vibe coming from these reviewers, that I was there with, that also got the early screening.
All right.
I think I said to him once, man, the first thing I said was I never realized that Superman and Batman their moms had the same name, just like a matter of fact thing. And he's just like shaking his head because I didn't get the fact that nobody got that and understood what that was. And we covered that in 4 takes, that's like the big meme moment that people like to rip on. And since then, I've been listening to this podcast called BVS by the Minute, and I've tried to get other people to listen to it because every podcast is 15 to 20 minutes of talking about 1 minute of the film.
Right.
And they're about halfway through it, and holy crap, the stuff they're pulling out of this, and I'll get into a little bit just to in the likes, stuff I would have never noticed. And these guys wouldn't have noticed either if I hadn't actually broke it down. So I'm going to steal some stuff from them, but yeah, but I also recognize it's false. I would say I love this movie, and I would add warts and all. I don't think it's a perfect movie like you guys do, but anyways, I watch this movie over and over again. I think it's one of the best Batman films. It might be my second favorite Batman film.
Nice.
Yeah, and I would say Batman Begins is probably my favorite.
See, you said something which I said years ago. I said if you take out this Batman versus Superman and just let this be a Batman film and turn Lex Luthor into the Riddler, boom, and just let this monster thing become this, not Doomsday, but just let him become that monster thing to let everybody come together. I mean, I think that would have been an excellent film, but this has had too many things in there that it just threw me off from what I know what Batman should be about and what Superman should be about. So it just threw me completely off. Part of my comic book fandom, maybe, I don't know. But it seemed like you reached there too, because you said that it deviated from what you read growing up from the comics, right?
Yeah.
And it's either going to connect with you somehow or it's not. It didn't connect with me, and it didn't fully connect with you.
And you're not alone either in saying that, because I can't tell you how many people I told about our podcast, and the first movie I mentioned is BVS because we've already done 2 4 takes on it. Now we're doing this, and their first thing is, I did not like that movie. So many people from so many aspects that love everything because it had that initial, this isn't what I wanted, probably because of the way Marvel has conditioned.
It doesn't feel good.
Well, yeah,
the movie isn't designed to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Like my mom, I took her to the first Batman, and she loved it, but she's like bad guys should wear black hats, good guys should wear white hats. There's no moral middle ground. And I'm like, this is like Batman at his worst, and this is character development.
Well, it's also Superman, right? And Superman embodies the white hat, and he's nothing like that in this movie.
Totally.
It's all gray area with him and him trying to figure it out because he's not familiar with it. I think that's what makes the movie great.
Yeah, that was one thing that I really do appreciate. The more I see where Zack Snyder was going with the full story, that sadly we might never get a chance to actually see on film. But I love that. It's like the redemption. It's like none of us are perfect, and we all have ups and downs. And this was both of their dark point. This was The Empire Strikes Back. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's the best way to put it. That's what I've always said. If you look at any great trilogy, the second movie is always the darkest one. You look at any great trilogy, and if you look at, I guess you would say the first trilogy, which would be Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. I mean, BVS is clearly the darkest one.
Mm-hmm.
I've never thought of that, but you're so right.
Yeah.
Look at Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Matrix. Look at any
Temple of
great
Doom.
trilogy. Temple of Doom.
Even though
It's a
those
great trilogy.
Doom
The
is
darkest
metal,
one is
dude.
always,
That's so
and then the
true.
third one is always about redemption.
Oh, I never thought of that.
it's kind of like just a movie in itself will have 3 acts or a play,
Mhm.
but when you got a trilogy, each movie's an act, kind of,
Yeah,
and it's kind of the same thing.
I guess
Second act
that's actually a pretty good take on that too, David. Now that I'm thinking about it too, like you have to have that grungy part of the film to suck you in so deep, and then it's like, well, have you question: is there going to be a positive outcome? Is there going to be a good ending?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it brings you back to the third, to where it's going to be a little bit more lighter, and you do see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Right.
So that makes sense. That makes sense.
All right. All right.
I'm trying to be good, so I'm not trying to talk too much right now.
I know you're gonna struggle. Excuse me. I know you're gonna struggle on this part, but let's get into the likes. All right.
I
So,
do have some likes.
all right, likes. Man, where do I start? All right. So first, I think this is hands down the best version of Batman like we've ever seen. I think
we're all
I think
agreeing.
it, yeah, I think he like physically is the most accurate looking Batman. I've always like in my mind, I've always pictured Batman as like a big, like kind of brooding guy, like a big guy. He's always been like short in his movies and not like very like muscular at all. Um, I loved that him and Alfred built his own tech and stuff in the movies. I like that a lot. Like I said, I love the cinematography of it. I mean, Larry Fong is like a beast at cinematography. I like how much you have to watch this movie to keep getting things out of it.
Mhm.
I love that a lot. I love that you can't just watch it once, and like I like that it sticks to you when you watch it. Like it kind of makes you're like you watch it and you're like what the f did I just watch? Like it makes you want to rewatch it again because either I watched this wrong or you loved it and you need to watch it again and you're like I have to watch this again. I love movies that like stick with you when you watch them. I think the acting was really good. I think Man of Steel and BVS is like Henry Cavill's best acting. I think he's done. I don't think I've seen him in anything else that I think he's acted better than like in those 2 movies.
Count
At all.
Frisco.
I mean, after puberty.
Dude,
he looked like he hadn't hit puberty yet in that movie. Let me think. What else? I think I liked that Batman killed in it. The thing that I liked about Batman killing in this movie was that like Zack didn't try to hide it. That Batman was like he made you like he like made you focus on the fact that Batman is doing something wrong because Batman has always killed. He killed in the Dark Knight trilogy. Keaton's Batman killed. Like every version of Batman is killed. It's just that every director has glossed over it. Like they just like in the Dark Knight, Batman killed like 10 people in that movie, but no one thinks about it because like he just kills someone and he goes about his business. Like it's not really like focused on it. And to me, like great action in a movie is like when it has consequences. Like there's consequences for your action. Like you can't just punch someone. Like you can't have the camera focused on someone and they punch someone off screen and you don't see what happens to that person because you don't care. It's the director. Like the director's not. I mean, the director don't care, in my opinion. Like if you hit someone, like if someone were to come up and hit you in the head, something would happen to you. There would be consequences to that, And like this movie showed that, which I love a lot. And all right, go ahead, AZ. I'll let you go. I don't want to go too long, but I'll probably jump in with. No.
Well,
Dude, I could talk for like 2 hours.
Right, for sure. But honestly, like I'm interested in hearing what made you love the movie like what resonated with you initially, right? If you haven't already covered it, just for the sake of the podcast version of this, that people who don't know you.
Right.
Right? What really rang with you? Like
So the first time I saw it, I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. I liked it. I like but that's the same way I am with like all the Zack's movies. Like I watch it and it's hard for me to focus on like all the other stuff about it, like initially when I'm watching it, because I get like so sucked into it. But once the Ultimate Edition came out, that made me love it. The theatrical version was good. I liked it, but I knew going into the movie that there was 30 minutes missing from the movie. So I liked it when I saw it, but I wanted to see the other stuff. And then when I saw the Ultimate Edition, like, I loved it. I thought it explained things better. I thought the story literally changed in some parts, like the whole Lex Luthor and the senator, like at the courthouse hearing thing. Like, that scene is completely different in the Ultimate Edition. In the theatrical version, they make it sound like she's there to confront Superman, like about what happened in the desert. But in the Ultimate Edition, you find out she's actually there because she found out Lex was the one orchestrating everything, and she was about to call him out about it. But I just, like, the more I watch it, I mean, the more I love it. Like, the more I find like similarities between this and Man of Steel or Zack Snyder's Justice League, or little things in the background, you know, that make it that tie into something going on in the scene at that moment, like the painting, like you remember the scene where Clark and Bruce first meet at Lex's party, and that painting, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but that painting on the background, like that painting, if you look up what that painting is about like kind of like police brutality and people with power stepping out of line. Like, I love stuff like that, and it makes you think like how appropriate that is, like, for that moment when they meet, about like the conflict of someone having too much power and stuff like that. So I would say I liked it when I first watched it. I loved it when I saw the Ultimate Edition because it explained so much and it made me look deeper into movies. Like, this one made me understand, like, there's more to movies than like when the camera is focused a certain way on someone, the director is telling you something. Like, he's trying to tell you something. And like, this movie made me appreciate that.
A Balance of Terror is the name of that painting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I like it when a movie takes itself seriously and doesn't feel like it needs to pander through humor.
Yes.
And this was probably the first time, besides Watchmen, I saw this happen completely in a movie, as far as comic book movies go. This is the first time I saw a comic book movie that did zero pandering. It was completely unafraid to take itself seriously, and in fact dared you to reckon with that. That was what I liked about it initially. I was like, that's what made me say this is the perfect superhero film. It's completely fearless in the way that comics are fearless, right? Mm-hmm. They give you the material that was written in a way that is unfiltered, and you read it and enjoy it and suspend your disbelief, right? But there had become a climate of humor as a coping mechanism to explain all the violence. Right? To explain, right. To make the violence digestible for the parents that were taking their kids to go see this stuff, right? My parents never read my comics when I was 15. They didn't read my Daredevil comics. They would have been appalled. Right?
Right.
Okay. But I got to make that decision as a 15-year-old. And all of a sudden that decision is being removed from me by Marvel Studios. Right?
Big time.
So that's what BVS symbolized for me. That's why I was like, this is the best superhero film, even though I don't read DC, because it is faithful to the format of comics, right?
That's a good point.
They have, like, Zack Snyder managed to redistill what comics do to you and for you as a person with an imagination who wants to escape, right? So that was my first like about that film. That was, and arguably the most important one, I would say, for me personally. Next, and on the most recent watches, I want to talk about some of the tiny things that I really liked that I didn't notice before. I really liked Lex about 10 times more than I thought I did. The more I watch this movie, the more I love Lex. It's because I don't think I fully realized how entirely he was behind everything.
From the beginning of the movie.
From the beginning. I thought he was like starting to get his hands dirty, like in the third act. And it's like, no. He was the first. He beat everyone to the punch when it came to framing Superman, when it came to turning Batman, right? All of that. He was behind the scenes the whole time, and that is shown to you in the Ultimate Edition in a comprehensive way that you can understand, and you are rewarded with your effort mentally when you actually start to let that sink in. And one of my favorite things about him is how many puns he uses, that where he's the only one that would get the pun because he wants to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
Hey, you're really going to be on the hot seat in there. When he says to the judge, I never noticed that one. And I'm like, oh, he's talking about the wheelchair that's going to blow up. She's not going to be on the hot seat in there. She's actually Superman is, right? When you think about it.
Yep.
But he says that to her, and you're really going to be on the hot seat in there, aren't you? Like, and he thinks that's funny, and that's the only reason he's saying it. He thinks that's funny because he's egotistical.
Big time.
And whoever wrote that is a genius. Whoever wrote Lex is a genius because they understand everything that drives him is a combination of intelligence and egotism.
Cristerio.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why when he says Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne, it never occurred to me that he knows who they both are.
Right. Right.
He's saying that as a joke to himself to entertain himself. Oh, I'm the only one in this room that knows both their identities, and they don't know that. So I get to say that out loud and then think that's entertaining to me because I'm smart and egotistical. The other things I really liked about him is he's referencing Zeus at one point, and you don't understand that means something until you see Justice League.
Yeah.
That's like a funny little nugget that he's actually talking about Zeus. Like, and it's like, oh yeah, Zeus is in the movies and actually does something really important when it comes to Darkseid. Really important.
And Diana rolls her eyes right when she says it.
He stops Unity.
Yeah.
Right? There's that. There's also the cake. That's the Acropolis where she finds the arrow later. That's an Easter egg, obviously. Yep. And it's like, that's so, I'm like, how did I miss that? How did I not think that when I watched Justice League in the theater? Because it's so quick, but it goes right by. You know, you see that cake and you're like, oh my God, that's Zach being like, hey, he's waving at you retroactively after you watch Justice League, right? There's like just a million moments like that. As far as the cat rescuing a cat in the tree thing, Bruce actually says the line whenever he saves a cat out of a tree, you write a puff piece about him.
Right.
Which implies that he has rescued a cat out of a tree, Jared.
Right. He's just not going to show it.
So it is there. It is in the film, right? There are so many tiny, tiny, tiny things that really just, it's just, I said this in the 4 Takes video where I was like, everything is slaved over in this film.
Everything is
slaved over in this film. I don't know how to make that more clear. Like that, I guess that's what would be my biggest like, besides the first one I said. Besides the integrity of it, the fact that it demands that you reckon with what comics are as an experience. And then they slaved over that fact to make, I still think, possibly the best comic book film of all time. I like that. In fact, there's one thing I'm wondering, actually, if the chat or you guys can answer this. Batman's branding those guys, right? And sending them in there, and everyone's like, oh, that's a death sentence, right? It's a death sentence. And I'm like, is it a death sentence because Batman's branding them? Or is it a death sentence because Lex has the branded people sent to the other hospital? That's it? Okay, that's what I thought. This time around, I didn't catch that until this time. I was like, Lex is doing that.
Yes, Lex was doing that to make it seem like Batman was sitting these people to death.
This movie, man. This movie.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get any better. It doesn't. If anything, it just comes close to being as good. Those are my likes. I'll leave it at that. I've got like so much more. It's just so good. It's disgusting.
Izzy, can you remind me that you said the cake? I don't remember what scene you're talking about.
At the function where Bruce and Clark meet for the first time. That's one more thing I do want to talk about. Yeah, they wheel a cake by that looks like the Acropolis, where she finds the arrow.
Remember when he's chasing Diana up the steps and he almost bumps into that cake?
Wow.
It's the spot where she finds the arrow.
I saw that and like lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, that's totally Zach waving at you in the past. Like he's doing that on purpose. Like that's where she finds the arrow when they light the warning fire. Right. One more thing. When she's at the museum and the curator approaches her personally and removes her from a conversation she's having to show her the sword that cut the Gordian knot that was owned by Alexander. I never understood that. I thought he was just grabbing the hottest chick in the room to show her because she's there and she looks opulent. And Zach doesn't tell you that she works in restoration and curation of another major museum in London.
Right.
Another retroactive thing that you get to enjoy when you watch this movie after watching Justice League. You're like, oh yeah, she has that job. Of course, he's approaching her because he knows that she's Diana. the curator of the London Museum.
Right,
As
right.
part of restoration processes. So he wants to show off, hey, we got the sword that cut the Gordian knot. Not only will you know what that is, but you'll admire the restoration process we did on it.
Right.
It makes that scene just have a little tiny bit more impact when you're like, oh, he's not just grabbing her because she's some random rich looking chick. She's important in the museum world, and he knows it. He knows who she is. I don't know. I just love that kind of stuff. There's just so many little tiny things like that just got better and better every time I watch it. So, yeah, I could go on forever. Serial killer Batman's amazing. Superman having to struggle with gray area, amazing. Like
I love it. I love it.
But okay, Raheem looks like he would rather hang himself than listen to this for one more second.
Like,
There were 3 likes, specific likes that I had in this film. It was 3 specific ones. And all of them could have been made this one of the greatest Batman films to date.
okay.
First one, the opening scene and how I love Man of Steel. So the opening scene after he goes to the whole Martha thing as a flashback as a kid, but now we're seeing the fight between Zod and Superman through a third eye, which is Batman's eye.
Mhm.
That whole sequence and the connections that he's having, and seeing him as being Bruce Wayne in the daytime, going about his, like this crazy stuff is going on, but him still being that person who wants to help and save and care. You know what I mean? Like seeing that sequence and then the fighting sequence on what really pissed him off, what really got him going on this tangent on why he wanted to beat the hell out of Superman, even though his aim was misguided. But that's what that opening scene right there was, just so raw, so pure, and so honest. And I sat there. I probably watched that scene. I probably rewinded that scene maybe 10, 12 times, just watching it in one setting, trying to get every little increment thing out of it. Him showing up to where the Wayne building, the building was, and I did not like the extended version, but I'm not gonna get to that. Anyways, the likes. So, but just that connection with that, on how it just showed who he was as a person, who he really is as a person, without the cape. Hardworking, loving, caring person, cares for the city, cares for people in general, and want people to be genuinely safe. And it almost broke me when he asked the little girl, where's your mama? Where's your parents? Whatever. And she just looked back at that building, his building. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he just looked, and that part right there, and when he said that, and at that specific time, you see Superman thrashing through another building with Zod. You know what I'm saying? Just the look on his face, that scene, that the camera, the cinematography right there, and it showed him looking up, and you start to see his face just you can feel the anger coming out of him, to where it's hate. It's so much hate, and he didn't care what was going on. He didn't care who was right and who was wrong. He just seen what the destruction happened without even caring for the lives that was around that. Carelessly fighting Zod carelessly throughout the city. So that was one of my favorite scenes. I watched that countless times. I loved every part of that scene, every part of it. The second scene that I liked a lot, even though I felt like it should have went down differently, and then they should have had that scene, was Batman saving Martha. That scene in itself, the extended version showed a lot more, and showing showing the tactics of Batman and his brute force was brilliant, because we haven't really seen the brute force side of Batman in all these films. We've seen it in comics. You see a plethora of that, right? But the brute force of it, of how he was fighting, and the fact that he can be harmed at the same time. when you're fighting all these guys. You know what I'm saying? So it still showed that, but it just showed his peak strength, his peak like his mindset when it comes to fighting and the style of fighting and how he mixed martial arts with the brute type of fighting too. It was just, I was just sitting here like, oh my gosh. So I watched that a lot of times. And then the third gem, and I don't think you guys knew this. I don't think you guys even knew that there was another villain in this movie.
Who?
I might know. KG Beast?
No.
Because he is.
Oh, I know. But no, that wasn't the person I was thinking about.
Okay.
The Riddler. The
Oh,
Riddler was in this movie. Y'all didn't catch that?
No, I didn't.
Zach was brilliant. Okay, so he disguised them. He disguised the Riddler as Lex Luthor. And I was thrilled. I was just thrilled out of my mind that the Riddler was in this film. So those are the three things that I loved about this film.
They aren't laughing, Raheem.
Oh, I know.
As far as the martial arts goes with him, I really like that scene too, because there's one of my favorite parts in the movie is after he takes out the last guy before he's going to go in and face the dude that's got Martha with the flamethrower. He like throws the dude's own knife into him and he hits the wall, and then you see Batman like hulking towards him with like the cowl and the cloak and everything. He's just like, "Here I come, dude," and you're like, "Oh no!" Like that guy's so screwed, man. Like you're just right there for it. I love that. His whole like, I haven't seen Batman act that way physically since pretty much Keaton. Keaton's the only guy that has that kind of viscera in the fight scenes. You see him just making the face, smashing the crap out of dudes, right? And it's like nobody's really done that since, in a way that like he looks mean, right? He looks menacing, right? Like that scene's awesome.
Dude, that
like
scene
is shot in the head too. Poof.
That's
and like
that's
the cowl.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Where the bullet. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Dude, that scene is like one of my favorite scenes in a comic
So
book
good.
movie. We've never seen Batman, like that's the first time I watched a Batman movie and I felt like the bad guys were actually trying to kill him. Like they were actually trying to kill Batman. And like I just feel like the very first scene, like him coming up from the floor and putting the things on everyone's gun, and I'm like, that's what I want to see. Like that is the Batman I want to see, man. It was so good. So good.
Hey, Jared.
I caught a little thing in that scene where when he jumps off the Batwing, like it's almost like Alfred is controlling it at that point. It almost gives him a little boost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tip of the. This is so
I'll
cool.
drop you off on the second floor, shall I? Like,
Yeah, right.
Here's a little lift. Okay, so likes briefly, I will say Wonder Woman.
Oof. I forgot about Wonder Woman. Yeah, go ahead. I forgot about
That was my quick like. My other likes, I'm gonna pull out three things in like the first like 15, 20 minutes that made me realize. So one of my concerns when Zack Snyder got a hold of the DC Universe is he's kind of known for a style over substance guy. But I'm realizing that he is showing substance through his style.
Thank you.
Okay. And there's some scenes in
Cloud Rock.
so the first one is the scene where very beginning Ben Affleck is narrating over the funeral scene.
Right.
And he's talking about things falling. Everything's fallen, right? And if you look the imagery around it, there are so many things that are falling. The leaves are falling. At one point, the camera does a loop around thing and falls, kind of, He falls into the pit. Then they show the scene where his parents are shot, and there is the sparks falling from the train above. There are the pearls falling, and I just think that's so cool how many like things that he threw in there that go along with that theme. I thought that was great imagery. It was on par with his like intro to Watchmen. That's so cool. Another scene is so you were talking about how Lex was behind this whole thing from the very beginning, all the way back to the desert scene where he's framing Superman, right? So that is shown in a way. That's the thing. This show doesn't like have everything explained to you with the evil guy, and he's telling you his dastardly plan, right?
Right.
Like, you have to see this multiple times to see how he did this.
Mhm.
You are just as in the dark as everybody else in the movie. So when he comes down and he lands and he's going to save Lois, there is like a chessboard pattern on the wall behind him that insinuates that the first pawn in the game has been set, and it's Superman standing in front of that chessboard. And I just like that, just like
Wait, which part?
when he comes down and saves Lois, like the background kind of has, it's not like red and black.
Oh, in Africa.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. I have to look at that. I didn't even see that.
It's such a cool idea. Like he's putting his pieces in place. You know, he's getting ready to do
Right.
it. That is just like genius. There's all sorts of horses, and this is all stuff I got from that podcast. I'm not going to say I claim
Horses were definitely a thing.
Yeah, there's that's
What is that thing? I noticed two of them. One's by
It's-
itself in the smoke.
Four. It was four.
and there's paintings. You know, like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and also horses kind of like always have like a foreshadowing of death, and you kind of see that before. You'll see a horse here and there before something major happens. The other imagery I really liked that I didn't catch until this podcast. I'm totally stealing this stuff from that podcast. You guys should listen to it if you don't.
BVS by the minute.
Yep. And they're doing Justice League too. They're doing all 4 hours of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's cool.
So I didn't really get the fact that when Clark shows up and sees Lois, the bathtub scene, right? She's a little bit concerned about what's going on around him and what the news is saying. And he's saying, I don't care. Like he's in his own world at that point. Like he's
Horse blinders, big time because of her.
And there's one scene, the final scene of that, you just think it's a cool shot of glasses on the floor.
Oh yeah, no, that means
But
it's
that is showing he's taken off his glasses
yeah,
and dropped them. He's not seeing the full picture.
right.
He doesn't care to. I'm just like, oh my God. And it's full of things like that.
Metaphors all over the place.
Metaphors all over the place.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like deep thought. I really do feel like if I'm sure that The Dark Knight Returns was not well received right off the bat. I'm sure a lot of people were like, what is this? What is going on? Why is my Batman old? Why is he got a gun? You know, but after the whole story was done, it is now a classic piece of literature. And I feel like this series, if finished and completed with the full story, I feel like it could have been like one of the most classic Justice League stories told of all time, you know?
Probably the definitive one.
Because the deep one, because of this, because of the fact that we can go in and we can analyze the crap out of just one movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know? And then I guess, I mean, my other likes are just the obvious, the music, as you guys said, Batman being Batman for once with the gray and the black instead of the all black. I said it in one of the podcasts before. You know,
Way
he
moves, man.
looked like Batman.
He moves alone.
And everybody was
Best Batman to date. Best
definitely best, like closest to the comics.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm saying like movie wise, you know, like cinematic universe or cinematic whatever. Best Batman to date.
The
Yep.
voice, I really liked the modulation thing instead
It
Yeah.
of
makes sense. It makes sense.
Way more
Instead of-
realistic.
Instead of just Christian Bale like screaming and hurting his throat and becoming a meme because it's so goofy.
Right.
That is seriously my biggest problem with the Dark Knight
Where's
trilogy.
the muffin?
I cannot take it seriously because every time freaking Batman talks, I'm just sucked out of it, and that sucks because they're amazing movies.
Even when he talks as Bruce Wayne, I can't stand it.
It sucks.
Even when he talks as Bruce Wayne, I cannot stand it.
Like, I think my favorite thing about this movie is the imagery and the foreshadowing and just the visuals, which it makes sense because that's what Zack Snyder's known for. But it was smart. It was intelligent visuals. It wasn't just to look pretty and cool in
Right.
slow-mo. It meant something. Every bit of it.
Yeah. I was gonna go back to what you were talking about. That was one of my likes too, was that poem. you were talking about, like that Bruce is saying at the beginning, like that poem. If you listen to the words in that poem is like really like tells the story of the movie. Like it talks about like in the beginning, he's saying how things were perfect and like diamond absolutes, and he's talking about him as a kid with his parents, like how perfect things were with his parents. What falls is fallen. Like his parents died. Like once they're dead, like they can't be undead. Like what falls is fallen. And then he says, like, in the beautiful light, they took me to the light, a beautiful lie. Like
Beautiful eye, yeah.
the beautiful lie was that being Batman was worth it. Like because it wasn't worth it. Like he's been Batman for 20 years in Gotham and it wasn't worth it. Let's do it. Let's get into those dislikes.
Do you have any, Dave?
I don't really have a dislike. I have one moment. I have a moment in the movie that every time I watch it, it annoys me. There's only one scene that really annoys me. Is right after Wonder Woman appears, who I think has the best entrance in any comic book movie. Her
Saves
intro.
Batman's life.
Yes, that is like the best moment in a comic book movie, for a hero entrance. I mean, and right after it shows that, it cuts to a scene of Lois running towards a spear, and like she trips and falls in the water, and like I don't know, that scene just bugs me every time because it's like we see Wonder Woman saving, and then Superman blast Doomsday into that building, and then it just cuts to Lois just falling in the water. That thing just, I don't know, that's like the only scene in the whole movie that bugs me every time I watch it.
That's the only scene, huh?
Yes.
I don't remember.
I know that's shocking to you, Ryan, but yes.
That doesn't even ring a bell with me. Like, but now I'll probably notice this.
I remember it.
I notice it every time. Every time.
That Lois scene was very minute. That was like really something that's insignificant for you to decide.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything bad about the movie. I don't think there's anything bad about. I think the acting is good. I think it's well shot.
So you really think Eisenberg acting?
That's what I was gonna say. You're 100% on the Eisenberg trend as Lex.
Yes.
I am now. Yeah.
I think the only reason you two are so down on it is because you have a set idea in your head based off what you've seen of what Lex.
You have an expectation.
If
you don't have one, if I'm telling you, if you walk into every movie you ever watch in your whole life with zero expectations, and you walk out of it sizing it up based only on what it was trying to do, you will be much less critical.
Like, I mean, you do realize he was putting on a show the whole movie. You realize he was putting on a show.
Whoa.
The whole movie, right?
No. I get all that. I get
the
show doing all. I get all of that. His acting was terrible.
No, it wasn't.
He acted how he was supposed to act.
His acting was IMO for me. His acting was terrible.
He acted like Jesse Eisenberg. I just saw a movie called American Ultra, and he was like, that's the same dude he played in Batman versus Superman. He's just that Jesse Eisenberg. He's got his thing.
He acted exactly how he acts in every single film. There has not been
he
one
did
film.
not. No, he did not.
Just not one film. Let's go.
The Social Network.
Social Network is way different than that. Well, you telling me you don't like Chris Tucker now?
I'll be like,
Social Network. The Social Network.
When I am watching this, I'm like, okay, what is this? What is he trying to be? What is he trying to do? Like, what is this?
He's acting insane.
You don't actually want it explained, though.
Okay.
He's acting insane. That's the point of the movie. He's acting insane.
Let me tell you this, okay? Because you guys talked about Lex in the podcast earlier, and that was when my stupid microphone turned off, and I had stuff to say, and I wasn't able to. I had a fan theory when I was watching this that helped me get through it the first few times.
Helped you get through it?
Yes, helped me get through his version of Lex. Helped me get through his version of Lex. So when Superman did die, and this isn't an interpretation of the death of Superman, right? Had Doomsday in the comics at the time. Lex Luthor was actually a curly red-haired guy, and it was Luthor's son, or so you thought, because Luthor had died. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, he was actually a clone that Lex had put his consciousness in as a younger body of himself. So I was kind of hoping that that's what the direction Zack Snyder was going. This was a clone of the original Lex, because how many times does Lex talk about his father in this movie? A lot. which is kind of his way of I
Oh,
hope,
if it was his clone.
talking about himself, like humble brags, you know.
And he would love that kind of inside joke too.
Yes, and
He would get off on that in this movie.
And there were a couple times at the party where he lost his train of thought. He was like giving that speech and the paradox thing or whatever, and then he almost okay. So if you got clones, you're going to lose something along the line. Like
You think about multiplicity?
well, yes.
Is that what you're talking about right now?
Maybe a clone would not be a perfect version, and it might be losing it a little bit up here. Some wires aren't connecting.
I don't think he lost his train of thought. I think he stopped himself from saying something that he shouldn't say.
That would be so badass, though, Jared. That would be so cool.
Maybe it was said in there for a possible thing. I don't know. But then once you see Justice League, he shaves his head. He's sitting on the boat. He's commanding. He's Lex there, right?
Yeah, he's dropping the act. That's kind of the whole point that Dave's making is that's all an act.
Dropping the act.
Did you like that version, Raheem? When you saw Justice League and he's sitting on the boat, Deathstroke comes up. He's bald. He's like, you didn't even like him there?
I wasn't acting crazy on the boat with Deathstroke.
You know what we're talking
acting
about, right?
crazy on the
Raheem?
boat.
You take that one little segment for him to try to be serious out of that whole charade that he did in BVS, it just turns you off in general.
All
I
right.
don't care.
Why?
I do not care what I see him in when it comes to a serious film. And
I've seen man.
I've seen him in a few supposed to be serious roles. I cannot take him serious. I just cannot do it. He don't
like the actor.
He don't have that skill set. He doesn't have that skill set for me to separate who he is as a person. He just does not have it. Maybe down the line as he gets older, he just doesn't have it for me. And when I see him in this film, I've seen who he always been in all those other films. I couldn't. Okay, like Ben Affleck. Easily, you can separate him from Ben Affleck to Batman or to Bruce Wayne. Easy. You can separate the two. You know what I'm saying? It's like the acting skills of those two people are far apart. But I don't know if he was trying too hard. I just don't know if that was the direction that they really was trying to force him to do. And it was like, well, he can't get it. Well, let's go ahead and go with it anyway. I just don't know. He did not sell me as that. He sold me. He sold, like, if he was trying to play the Riddler, if he was trying to play that role, okay, I can run with that because that fits who he is as a person. It fits him. The Lex Luthor that was trying to give off did not fit for me. It didn't fit, and it didn't fit for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm trying to say. And that's it.
Yep. It was a different take than I was expecting, and I eventually just accepted it.
I wasn't sure the first time I watched it, and I didn't think of it as a weak part of the movie. It wasn't expected, but now I'm all in.
I only love it when I look at everything going on behind the scenes and how smart he actually was.
Yeah. Except for one point. There's one part of the movie where he gets outthought, and you see him see it and be like, oh, that's impressive, but I can shift. And it's when Batman breaks in to steal the kryptonite. That's the one thing he doesn't plan on. After he blows up the Capitol, that's when Batman's like, all right, fine. And he just goes and steals it. And then he has to ride through on the motorcycle in a hurry. And then he gets there and he's like, oh, okay. Like, that's the one time. And I'm like, of course, Batman would be the one person that outthinks Lex Luthor in that moment. And I thought that was totally badass. Like, I love that scene, man. Especially this time watching it a couple days ago again, and being like, oh. But he's like, that's fine. He just like still does what he was going to do anyways. He's like, okay, fine. Like, I don't think he wanted to lose his actual kryptonite. I don't think he wanted that. I don't think that was part of his plan to give that to Batman.
Be the end game. It will be the end game.
Yeah.
You have complete control over everything.
He still wanted the silver bullet, and he didn't have it now.
And also when he's talking to the senator, like when the senator comes to visit him at his place and he's drinking the bourbon, and she says, I'm rejecting your import license on it. There's like, if you watch it, there's like a split second where he almost breaks character of like being the crazy guy. And then he starts like tapping on the glass and says the red capes are coming. Like he goes back into it. Yeah. So freaking good. It's so good.
So
it's weird. It's so weird. But then when you go back and look at it, it's so good. That's but you have to care enough to want to go back and check that out. So many people just were turned off immediately, and it was like, there's another superhero movie around the corner. Maybe I'll like that one better.
You know what my number one issue is with BVS? Why I argue with people? I do not care if you don't like the movie. You can either like. People can have their own opinion. You can think the movie sucked, whatever you want. What the number one thing I hate about this movie is people hate it for things that aren't true about it. That's what I hate about it. Like if you understand, like saying that Lex was acting out of character when that was the point. That was the point of the movie, that he was supposed to act out of character. Now, if you understand that he acts out of character on purpose and you still don't like it, that's a different story. But don't tell me, oh, I don't like this Lex because he act like the Riddler, when you're only basing that off of Jim Carrey's Riddler. Because you can't name it. You can't name another Riddler. Name another Riddler.
I'm basing this off of history.
Name another Riddler. Name another Riddler.
Every Lex Luthor that I've seen from.
No, name another Riddler that acts like that.
When it comes to even the old Superman films,
name a Riddler.
When it comes to hold on. When it comes to the comics, when it comes to the WB comic, WB Justice League, like
name a Riddler.
all of these Lex Luthors was not this Lex. This was like
name a Riddler.
Lex Luthor.
Name a Riddler.
For me, he was like a Jim Carrey.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I said.
You just said.
Because the only idea you have in your head of Riddler is Jim Carrey. That's it. That's why. That's the only reason anyone says that.
Jim Carrey.
You can't name another Riddler that acts crazy or like weird.
No,
like
not yet,
Carrey.
Nathan.
Really?
Name one. Name one.
Have you not seen the Batman series?
66. We're going back to 1966.
Oh God.
No.
Oh, the
Even in
animated
the Batman
series?
animated series, he didn't act like that.
No,
He didn't act like Jim Carrey.
No, he was
pull it
controlled.
up right now, David, because you're good with computers. Pull it up right now. Pull up that.
He did not act. You're saying that. So you're saying right now the Batman animated series.
Pull up one of the Riddler's cartoon. I can't think right now. The,
Batman animated series.
Thank you. The Batman animated series, the Riddler.
He was very calm, cool, and collected, man.
He was not.
He was.
Like
He was
Jim
really
Carrey.
intelligent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He had a
If you're so smart,
that
if you're
was
so
about it.
smart, why aren't you rich? That was his introduction in the Batman animated
I think
series.
that's where he got that from. I don't know. Just pull it up.
No, I get your point. The Riddler in the Arkham series for Batman, the Arkham series and the games. That was a pretty good version. Do you
I
play
like
those?
that one.
Yeah.
He's basically like not in the first game. He's just kind of like leaving
background.
clues around as like a mini game.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about my dislikes.
Yes.
Go for it.
Thank
Go
you.
for it. Izzy. We're taking up enough of your time.
No, that was good because that's basically Raheem's dislikes, right?
We can skip him.
What?
Yeah, he just
I have a
skipped mine. I have one, and I didn't have one before I watched it 2 days ago. I had
Ooh,
none.
this is gonna be fun.
I have one. Well, it's more snarky than anything. It's not really a dislike, but it's now that I've seen Justice League, I could tell that the Ultimate Edition was designed around the same like structure and format that he was going for with Justice League, where it was happening in acts, because you see the screen go black. Like, so watching Batman versus Superman 2 days ago, I could feel that format being put in place, where everything happens like in parts, like the 6 parts that happen in Justice League. You can feel this movie happening in parts that have a very overarching theme, and the screen goes to black at the end of it. And every time I expected a title, like "Don't Count on It, Batman," right? And I was like, "Oh my God, I wish that was here. I wish every part had a name, because there are parts." And I mean, did you not notice that? Did no one else notice that?
Yeah.
You did?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't watched it since I saw that because I didn't get a chance to watch it this time through.
Oh man.
I'll look
Like
for them.
I just was like, oh man, that I felt like something was missing now. That's the only that's as close as I can get to a dislike, but I was expecting to see a really clever name to introduce the next suite of scenes we had to go through that were all tied together, right?
I'm curious now if Man of Steel would have the same feel now that we know.
I did watch that really recently, and I don't remember it. But Batman
I don't
and
think it
BVS
does.
just now, dude, Ultimate Edition full on has parts that are strongly separated with a fade to black music ending, and there should absolutely be a clever title there in white text. And I'm just like, man, I can't figure out if Zach was testing that format out quietly, or if he noticed it later and was like, oh man, I should put titles in between that stuff because I tend to do movies in movements.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell which is true. It's there though. The similarity is there. Like both of these movies happen in movements. I don't really think Man of Steel does. I didn't get that feeling at all. But
it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely, now that I feel like I was ruined by Justice League in a way, because I was like, oh wow, this would have been cool to have these movements introduced to you. You know, because you do feel closure at the end of each movement when you see that title. You take a little breath, like emotionally and intellectually, kind of, in Justice League. At least I do. I'm like, okay, like I can let go of what was just happening.
Right.
You know, so to speak, because you're all wrapped up in it. You know what I mean? And the same thing kind of happened in BVS, and I was kind of sad that didn't happen. And honestly, I think if Zach had done that, it would have elevated the movie in a way that didn't confuse people that were expecting a fun, not dark, serious movie, right? I think they would know what they were in for as soon as they saw titles in black in between. They would be like, "Oh, this is a very serious."
Because they would instantly be told, like, "You're in for something different." This is
yes,
yeah.
So if I have a dislike, that's it. But it feels like a stretch to call it a dislike. It was just more like, wow, I felt that was missing, and it really would have served the film to separate it for people that didn't understand what they were seeing and then unintentionally end up saying they didn't like it just because they didn't understand it or just because it wasn't what they expected, right? So that's it. That would be my dislikes.
I want to feel what you guys are feeling. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I want to feel your
Nope, don't like this movie out of FOMO. Don't you dare.
Oh, I'm not. Trust me. I won't be true to who I am as a person if I was to do that. Like that's why I like you guys, because you guys don't give in to the majority.
No. Especially when the majority is wrong.
Yeah, but we're not talking about why you like us. We're talking about what you don't like.
You said especially the majority is wrong.
Yeah, we were. If 2016, when this movie dropped in 2016, if it told me anything, it's that, like, it's like critics have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. If you can't watch a movie without comparing it to
do with the critics, though, David.
That's who tanked the movie. That's who tanked the movie. Critics were literally telling people not to go see this movie.
Then tell me this, if that's the case, how did this movie grow so much money? It's because people were still interested to go see it.
Yes, that doesn't mean they didn't try to tank it.
No. People were still interested enough. Given what Rotten Tomatoes gave it or whoever tried to tank it, people still went to go see this movie because Batman, Superman, wholesome names. Like those are names to where you're going to see regardless of who said
the movie with that name. We'll get
when, where, why.
Right.
But it was after they seen it and then people commented on it. That was the consensus. So
you don't think, and you don't think the people who went to go see it didn't go into it with the mind of reading of what all the critics said about it, that the movie sucked.
I'm not going to say
into it that mindset.
I'm not going to say people didn't. Yeah, people did, and then people did not.
Okay.
But to say everybody, majority, that's a large number to be coerced into thinking that because they got rated, I'm just going to dislike it because this person disliked it, and then this person disliked it, and then this person disliked it. I would feel disdain towards the world, like this world sucks. If majority of the world says that this movie sucked based off of somebody else saying that it sucked, damn, we are doomed. We are literally doomed.
Yeah, you're right. So
what didn't you like about the movie?
Yeah, you're right. We are doomed. Because if you go into this movie and your issue was with Batman killing, but you didn't have an issue with Batman killing in The Dark Knight, then you're a sheep. You're a sheep. Because why didn't you have a problem with Batman killing in The Dark Knight then?
I'm glad. You know what? I'm so happy that he was killing. The only issue I had with him killing, and we went through this before, it's like you waited till now. Like you had the Joker killing thousands of people, okay, throughout his time. He killed thousands. There's villains who is locked up in Arkham because of Batman, but they killed thousands of people. But yet you get Superman who's saving the world, mind you, but you get Superman who basically was fighting Zod, and they, had some casualties within that war. And then Batman all of a sudden, I'm gonna go out for you and kill you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm set to kill you. You had all these other people this whole time. That just bothers me. It just bothers my soul. It bothers my soul.
Joker isn't a worldwide threat. Joker can't fly to Africa and kill someone.
Bro, I know that, but he's killed way more people than Superman. That's my point.
You brought up, you answered your own question on your likes when he saved the little girl in the beginning, and he saw that by accident Superman killed this girl's mother in his building. So at that point, Batman realized this guy is a threat. Like, this guy just existing is a threat. He can kill someone.
So Joker killing who? Who did Joker kill that was Batman's basically son? All of a sudden, he still did not kill Joker.
Are you saying he should kill Joker? Is that
He doesn't kill him. He takes him on a road trip in a nightmare scene in Justice League instead.
Well, he also says he's going to kill him. He says, make no mistake.
Yeah, he said he was going to kill Joker.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, he plans to kill the Joker. So you can literally stop having a problem with that right now.
He plans to kill the Joker.
There is whatever problem you're saying you have doesn't exist because Batman himself said, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, and he
because
also
BVS,
said,
he was at a breaking
You know what?
point.
We're going to cover this scene later. I've recorded my part of that scene, and I'll answer your question. That's the next 4 takes. The nightmare scene.
You can't have a problem with him not killing Joker because it's literally been handled.
He says it. He hasn't done it. He also says you better be careful.
Oh, do you think he breaks his promises, Jared? Do you think that Batman's not a man of his word now?
He's throwing empty threats at him before that. This Batman, yes, so I don't like it. He's not a man of his word.
Because before BVS,
let's save that.
Before BVS,
so it's like way up here, Superman, like right down here.
Before BVS,
but you're acting like. But Raheem, my point is, Raheem is acting like the fact that he won't kill Joker is a problem with the film.
Yeah, that has nothing to do.
That doesn't wash when he just said he's going to kill him.
No.
Raheem is saying because if Joker's going around and kill people, why hasn't Batman just killed Joker? Because before BVS, this Batman did not kill.
Right. And he hasn't seen Joker since then.
He had been Batman for 20 years. We've never seen a Batman be that Batman before, that long before in a movie. He's been Batman before 20 years, and seeing an alien come to Earth.
I didn't want to swear on camera, Nathan.
that everyone is praising, but Batman's only viewpoint of him is that, he killed this little girl's mom and he destroyed his building and his employees and all that. Like, that made him snap. Before BVS, this Batman did not kill.
But though, let's just let him talk about his dislikes, because if we defend
didn't he just? That wasn't that it?
No, he hasn't even started his dislikes yet. He was talking about Marvel and stuff. Like, what didn't you like about the movie?
We know that.
We just heard it.
But I don't want to just take the floor away from him either. Like,
I didn't like.
What made this a bad movie to you? Right?
This was a bad movie to me.
He didn't understand it.
I completely understood what he was trying to do. Come on now, don't dumb me down.
No, you did not.
I literally understood what he was trying to do, but it failed in my eyes. It failed what he was trying to do in my eyes.
You don't understand what he was trying to do.
I literally understood everything.
You did not understand it at all.
Because listen, this is another funny thing. Because I disagree with what he was trying to do.
I already explained it.
Did not understand it. I understood exactly.
I already explained this.
But it failed. It failed. I'm sorry. It failed. It failed in my eyes.
We gotta get to Jared's dislikes. What makes you not like this movie?
Well, I'm trying to get so to my not understanding, I'm gonna come from that aspect because I didn't understand. I didn't like the part to where he added in this whole Christ-like thing in the beginning of the film when he was a kid, fell down on the well, blah blah blah.
That was a dream.
Yeah. So
Floating with the bats was a
yeah,
dream.
the whole being floated up in the cross-like thing.
That was a dream.
That was dumb.
Just let him not like it.
That whole PTSD sequence was dumb to me, and I for sure know what PTSD is like. I know the feeling of it, and the whole thing of him remembering specifically what happened to his parents is BS. If you want to talk about realism, you remember fragments when it comes to PTSD. Fragments. You don't remember specifically sequences.
It's a movie. They have to show
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. It's a movie.
They have to show the audience the whole story.
It's a
trap.
Show flashes.
It's a movie. Exactly. Thank you for saying that. It is a movie. It is a movie. And it wasn't a good one. So for me, that sequence, that part when the PTSD and then Martha, to let you know that, okay, my mom name is Martha. That part was so lame to me. It was so lame as hell. And then you go on, right? And from a kid aspect, it would have been more dope. It would have been even more dope if he would have said himself as a child, "Mom," and not leave the Martha out of it, and let that be. If you're going to go that route, let that be a mystery. Let that be something that's not even going to be snagged on until later. Whatever. I don't want to go into that. Moments later, I like that one part, of course, when they're showing that scene with Bruce Wayne and seeing Superman for the first time, type of thing. That scene was dope. Fast forward, hated Lex Luthor, all of his scenes, hated every single one of Lex Luthor's scenes, especially when you guys keep jumping around the Jolly Rancher. That Jolly Rancher scene was asinine. I'm sorry. It was
okay. Why didn't you like it?
It was the most.
No, don't ask him to explain it.
Oh no, you're talking about why, right? Because you guys are gonna say because he's this genius. He's just playing with everybody's emotion. He's just nigga. I mean, I didn't even say that. But
oh my god,
that irritated me so much. There was no human being on earth, especially in the rank that he was in, to allow this individual, I don't care how rich you are, to allow somebody to just pop a Jolly Rancher in their mouth, and have them just be like, okay, I'm going to do your bidding type of thing.
Okay, you're not that guy. The power you can't expect yourself out of that guy.
Raheem, you never answered the question. Raheem, when this came up before, you still didn't answer the question, who was in charge? Izzy asked you this. Who was in charge in that scene? With the Jolly Rancher. Who was in charge?
Oh my God. I'm not going to answer that, bro.
You're right.
Because you know the answer.
No. I'm not going to answer that because that scene should not even exist. That scene should literally not even exist. And you would
what's that to do with the question?
You would have still gotten the point of that. What they tried to do was try to make him seem like this powerful individual. They failed to me. They made him look childish, stupid. It was not Lex Luthor, who could have done the same freaking thing in a more powerful way than making him look like, oh, I'm going to do this just to make myself seem like I'm more stronger than you are by putting the damn Jolly Rancher in your mouth. It was hella dumb. I hated every part of that scene. Every part. And I hated all his, matter of fact, his little, They actually did a YouTube of how many times he did that. And
I bet that's so good.
It was a lot.
That's not a reason you hate that YouTube video.
Your point was
not a dislike.
Your point was it didn't work for you, and I respect that.
It didn't work for me at all.
It didn't work for you. That's all there is to it. It didn't work for you.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It did not embody the Lex Luthor that I've read and seen and grew up on at all.
That is a very fair point.
Which I think that would have resonated. The real Lex Luthor would have resonated with way more people than that version of a Lex Luthor. If you want to be a fanboy or a fandom or apologist and be like, that Lex Luthor was the best, as somebody said in the comments, that was the best Lex Luthor ever. Like, what?
Even though that version of Lex Luthor is in the comics, but okay.
Thank you, Tony.
No.
Even though that version of Lex Luthor is in the comics, but go ahead.
So that was another. I cannot stand Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Fast forward, Doomsday.
Oh, okay.
The spear.
We've already
The
talked about this.
freaking spear. I fast forward too far. Rewind. The freaking the spear.
We've talked about this.
Tune into the video.
The
Tune into the
spear.
video.
Of
We
Superman,
talked
who
about
was
this.
so weak, he couldn't get himself out of the pool of water. Lois had to help him out of the water, holding the spear. And all of a sudden, I'm going to have enough strength to hold this spear to fly that far to stab Doomsday.
Is there a paper bag that I can like grab and come in and put on over your head?
Oh
Dude, we've already talked about this.
my
Yeah.
God.
This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I don't like when people dislike the movie because of things they're making up about it that aren't true. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
How was that? That was literally in the film. How can you make up? They showed him the scene before. They showed him how weak he was when he went down to get the spear. I mean the spear. He came up and he was like,
Did she toss the spear away from him?
Listen, we can't talk about we can't talk about the spear. We can't talk about the Martha moment because we've already covered that.
yes.
If they want to know
Let's make
Forte's,
an excuse for him. Come
if
on.
they want to know
Let's make an
Forte's
excuse
view,
for him.
Forte's view of that is well documented on our sites. Skip the spear.
Okay, so
Raheem, I'll tell you what. Raheem, let me. I bet your next one's going to be.
my last one.
It's going to be Doomsday, right? Can I? Doomsday?
Yeah, Doomsday.
Okay, so that's going to be mine. So I don't have any left.
All right,
Can I
yeah,
do
let Jared
Tuesday?
do it real quick, and then you guys can vibe off each other.
Doomsday was bad. Doomsday was bad, and that was Doomsday, and Doomsday was terrible. That's it.
That's not the original Doomsday, but go ahead, Jared.
Okay. I feel like that has gone back and forth. That is the Doomsday. That isn't the Doomsday.
It hasn't.
The only version that I accept, which is the most recent one I've heard, is that it's Doomsday 2.0. Really, it's a version of Doomsday's genetics from Krypton that has been endowed upon Zod as the body, right? And so this is like the real Doomsday is still out there in a rock, I hope, somewhere floating around. And this is just a weird. See, I have to. There's some things that I have to make excuses for in this movie. I feel like the whole Lex thing and this Doomsday thing. Those are the two things. I kind of wish they would have maybe used a different villain, like maybe Brainiac or something. Like if they would have brought him in, there wouldn't be such a like. Why not? If they need a Kryptonian influence, why not be Brainiac? Although that is more the cartoon version than the comic version.
Because they had Zod's body and the ship.
Yeah, Zod was already there.
Brainiac needs his own thing. He needs his own.
Yeah, that would have to be Brainiac. Would have to be a whole like.
Yeah.
Well, it would. You know what though? It would have also given Batman something to do because Brainiac, is brains. I've talked about Lex and Doomsday. I would have done those things differently. That to me is what a perfect movie is something that you wouldn't change one thing, you wouldn't make it different, and I would definitely make those different. Also, Doomsday, the CG in it, I thought was garbage. It looked like a cave troll from Lord of the Rings. I felt like it was just thrown in there last minute. Doomsday was just thrown in because we need something for the Trinity to attack. Like it really didn't make sense with Lex's end game. If he's trying to pit Batman and Superman against each other, what does Doomsday have anything to do with that? Other than
I have a thing to say about that, Jared.
okay,
I know
That's
the
not
answer
an
for
interruption.
it, but go ahead.
It's actually like a point because I thought about this. He didn't expect Bruce to steal the kryptonite, so he thought Batman didn't stand a chance. And then what he was going to do was force a creation into movement that would either kill Superman, which was the plan, or force Superman to destroy more property while fighting it and make him look even worse to the public after the bombing. That was my thinking. But Batman upset that by stealing the kryptonite.
I can't remember at what point it looked like Lex. So everything with Lex and the ship and creating Doomsday was after that.
Not
After
everything.
Batman stole the
No.
kryptonite?
No. Not everything. He started that process before that, before
Yeah.
the kryptonite got stolen.
So it was like his backup plan, maybe, is what you're saying?
No. He was
He was
always
gonna-
going to create Doomsday to
okay.
force the issue, because if you create something that's Kryptonian and unkillable, the only living thing that can interact with it is Superman. And he shows that. Superman saves Lex from Doomsday in that moment when he's like, you have no choice. And he's not
Yeah.
saying that. He's too smart to say that, but he's like, oh yeah, here we go. Like he did something that was completely off the leash. And that's the one moment where you see Lex kind of be like, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but Superman has no choice but to protect me, and then fight this thing and tear across. And who knows what's going to happen after that. I think his end game was to make Superman look worse.
Yes, and
pretty much what happened, and exactly what you said is
his plan. Go ahead,
He
go
knew
ahead.
that Superman was a savior, like that. He knew that. He knew that he was there to help and save people. He knew that. So when Batman took the only means to end the means for both of these beings, to get rid of both of these beings, was to use that kryptonite to kill them both, to kill Superman and to kill Doomsday. And I don't know if y'all caught that, but that's what he wanted. He wanted complete power to where he can control Doomsday to kill Superman, and he can kill Superman with the kryptonite, or kill Doomsday with the kryptonite once he killed Superman.
Okay.
Because Doomsday was like an unknown weapon and what he was going to do, but he did know that kryptonite can kill Doomsday. He did know that.
What you got, Dave?
Okay, that's partially right. So yes, Lex's plan obviously throughout the movie was to make Superman look bad. His plan with Doomsday was to gain control over Doomsday. That's why he cut his hand and put his blood in it when he was doing it, because he thought that would give him control over Doomsday. He didn't expect not to have control over Doomsday.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, that's why when he holds his hand up and he looks at Superman, he says, "Blood of my blood," which if
Right.
anyone who's read the Bible knows, like, that's a father-son connection.
Yes.
Like, he expected to have control over Doomsday from that, and he didn't have control over him.
Dude.
Interesting. Okay.
So Doomsday
Continue.
and Lex, basically Lex is the
Hold on.
father of Doomsday.
That was his plan. He thought he would give him control over Doomsday.
Okay. Yeah, I think I did pick up on that actually. It just to me seemed like kind of not just the DC crutch, but also any Marvel or movie DC like comic book. The third act with the villain has to be some big fight. I mean, it happened in Wonder Woman. It even happened in Suicide Squad with all the. I mean, I felt like there could have been a smarter ending than a fight against a giant monster that.
What else can kill Superman? And that's crucial.
And that too. That felt,
Part of the story.
that felt really tacked on too. Like if
But it's part of the arc, right?
it is apparently, but I think it came too soon. And that's what I have a question actually, and it comes down to like this series and how if you remember as we watched Superman, Man of Steel. A big complaint in the interwebs was that all the destruction that happened and Superman wasn't taking him out to the fields of Kansas, Smallville, to fight Zod to keep people safe, right?
Yeah.
Like he wanted this thing where buildings were crashing everywhere because it's cinematic and it's cool. But
It gives
people were
space.
actually-
Also, it shows an
Gives space.
adolescent Superman. I
that was
think
that was one of the reasons why people were like anti this version of Superman because he
they didn't understand that the
didn't take the
Superman
fight
with
from
enough
the city.
experience was coming in movie 4 and 5.
and I'm wondering how much of that is the case. Like it almost seemed like this was like almost that like Zack Snyder said, okay, how would the real world react to this? And he had a template of what the real world said, and it was like, oh, Superman's not thinking, he's not on our side, he's being reckless, and so he went with that, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
But I have a hard time feeling like that was the idea the whole time. Like, did he destroy the city in Man of Steel, thinking that in the next movie it was going to be something that turned the world against him? And I think the answer, I really do think that the answer is no. I think that evolved. I think that it evolved because they were rushed to make Justice League fast to catch up with Marvel. And so they needed to give Batman a reason to be angry at Superman. And it's not a bad thing, but I am curious if you've heard anything about this, Dave. Like, how far out was this all planned? I know George Lucas does the same thing. He acts like he had this whole thing planned out of the story of Star Wars. But if he did, he would not have Luke kissing Leia in Empire Strikes Back, you know?
He wrote the script for Justice League in 2015 before BVS came out. So he had the whole
Okay, but
the
did he
5-part film planned before BVS came out.
But did he write the script for BVS before Man of Steel was made?
He wrote the script for BVS shortly after Man of Steel was made, and then
Okay.
it got rewritten when Chris Terrio came
Well,
out.
there was some reactionary stuff.
Kind of. The original script for BVS was worse than what we saw. You would have hated that script.
As in how?
Because who's the guy who wrote Man of Steel? I can't even think of his name right now.
Oh,
David S. Goyer.
Okay, wow. All
So
right.
Goyer wrote Man of Steel, and he wrote BVS. And the script for BVS that Goyer wrote, and that scene in the desert where Lois is talking to the African terrorist or whatever, he actually punches her in the face. And then Lois makes a joke that Superman is about to come there and kill all the African Muslims there.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. That was terrible.
Yes, there's a bunch of stuff in that script like that Zach and Ben didn't like, and then Ben, had Chris Terrio brought on, and then they rewrote the script.
Was that like a Quartino film? that's like
Was there ever a thought to have? Was there ever a thought to have a second Superman film where Superman was actually adored? Because
Justice League,
we see that it happened at some
Justice
point.
League 3. In Justice League 3, Superman was going to be the quintessential Superman that the whole world adored, that everyone loved.
But why are they mourning him if they've always hated him, which is all we saw?
They
BVS,
realize what they lost.
because they realized what they lost. The world realized they were wrong about Superman.
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone made up all these things about Superman, like they showed it on the news. Everyone's mad at him for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, this guy died to save mankind.
It wasn't the world.
Okay.
I think this was missed. It wasn't the world. It was media, right? Everybody has an agenda who are
Oh yeah,
power.
for sure.
But the general people love Superman, and it showed when people was going up to him and talking to him and asking him questions. Like it showed all that through all these sequences. So it was like he was genuinely loved for the people because he saved the people. He didn't.
Well, he's
answer to
completely
nobody.
vindicated by destroying
He didn't-
Doomsday too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is he didn't answer to nobody. And throughout this film, BVS, it showed that power struggle. It showed that they wanted more control over this person because who has control over this person will have control over the world. But he didn't answer to nobody. Nobody knew how to reach him. Nobody knew where he lived. Nobody knew where he was. And so the general people of the world adore Superman. And so I think to where when he was gone, it wasn't like oh Superman is gone, so now we're gonna mourn because now we missed what he was. Like no, people already knew what he was. The real people, and it shows today, the real people who suffer today, the people who are there and fighting for them are praised. But the media will do what? They will make it look worse than what it actually is, right? Because they have an agenda, they have a goal.
Well, actually,
to try to steal minds away.
You think about it as a little bit prophetic. It kind of would be cancel culture, right?
Like, dude, Zach's movies are
That's
always
exactly
ahead of
what
their
it is.
time. They're always
Yeah.
ahead of their time.
That's totally cancel culture. And the cool thing
100%.
about it too is the whole like if you want to see his monument, look around you. That's proof that they understand that what they've
Exactly.
lost.
Right. Like
Right there.
we're literally alive because of Superman. Like there's nothing else you can ask for. Like of course these people are gonna mourn him because I mean look at all the trash we talked about this guy and then he sacrificed his life for us.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess the fact that just the whole story was a little rushed at that point because of studio interference, probably. Right. We want to get to We want to
And
get
then
to
also,
Justice League.
also in Goyer's script, at the end of the movie, Batman brands Lex. He doesn't hit the wall. He brands Lex.
Oh,
In that
what?
script, yeah. And Chris Terrio was like, he's like, Batman has to have a redemption. Like, he's like, what's the point of making Batman do everything bad we've seen in the movie if he's just going to brand Lex at the end? Like, that
Right,
script.
because his redemption is when he's like, listen,
I mean, yeah.
Martha doesn't die tonight, dude. You see that switch flip where he's like, okay,
Totally.
enough's enough. I think I've been played. I'm feeling very played right now. I'm the smartest detective in the world, right? That whole switch happens, definitely.
Yeah.
And he doesn't turn back, but even though he's still
Lois Lane is the
100%
smartest detective
Izzy.
in the world.
yeah. What, Raheem?
Lois Lane is the smartest detective in the world.
No.
Oh, here we
She
go.
is smart. That's another. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing I like about this movie is that Lois in this movie isn't dumb, and I feel like Lois has always been kind of like the dumb bimbo in a lot of Superman films. She's
She
just
admits
like,
the one dumb thing she does too when she talks to the general.
yeah, like she's always
she
just a
gets in the
dumb girl
bullet.
that's got to get saved. In this
She's
movie,
like, look,
she's
yes, I
smart.
went somewhere I shouldn't have. Yeah.
And Man of Steel, she's smart. That's the one thing I like about this Lois a
She
lot.
is very assertive, and she kind of used Superman too because she knew that Superman was going to save her life when she was in Africa in that predicament. She knew that, so she kind of used her smarts in that sense to where, in a negative way, to where, oh, my man's gonna save me, type of thing, and that's basically what happened. That's literally what happened in that part. But she's definitely smart. She's definitely smarter than Batman when it comes to being a detective, figuring out things.
Yeah, what she should be. I mean, if
No,
you're going to be a
she's-
Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, if you're going to be a Pulitzer Prize-winning
She should
journalist,
not be.
you should be figuring out things.
She should not
Okay,
be-
investigative reporter, yes. World's greatest detective, no. She hasn't been around the world learning from like every.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
That was
This
a big-
Lois does. She travels.
That was a big. That was a
Just
complete
Lois
big.
travels. They established
Coach!
that Man of Steel.
You know what?
She went to
It's
Africa.
really
She went to
good, by the way.
Antarctica. Like
Really good.
Yeah.
this Lois isn't just like
Yeah.
this movie doesn't just stick to Metropolis. Like this Superman goes around the world. He doesn't just fight crime in Metropolis all the time.
What other dislikes you got, Jared?
That's it.
You
I think we-
basically just didn't like Doomsday and the fact that some of the stuff felt tacked on and stuff.
Yeah, and the choice of how the direction they went with Lex, but all the stuff that I didn't like, I've learned to just accept. I think accept and enjoy. I'll say and enjoy. Once I saw the end game, sorry, bad choice of words. Once I saw where Zack Snyder was leading things with redemption stories for both Superman and Batman, and this was just part of their journey, the hero's journey, I totally am 100% in to Zack Snyder's vision. So, but I don't think it's a perfect movie.
Okay. We're going to do ratings?
Yes, we are.
All right, out of 10, I would give it a. I'll give it a man. I'm trying to. I want to say because I want to say 10, but I'm trying to think if there's anything that would stop me from saying 10.
So you got 10,
Especially
right?
when
Yes, 10.
especially when
I'll give
you're
it
on
10.
blast.
Exactly right. All right, Izzy.
10. I think I still stand by the fact that it may be the best superhero film ever made. It does what it set out to do perfectly. Everything it tried to do, it nailed to the wall. 10.
Raw.
I give it a 6, and this is why I'm giving it a 6. Those two parts of the films that I love the most. It really should have been a Batman film. I'm gonna say it for the rest of my life. It should have been a Batman film. But those two parts that I like the most is what made it a 6, because those were the two biggest pinnacle points of that film.
I feel like now I'm seeing that your passion might come from the fact that you wanted it to be something that was more successful.
It
So
should
you
have
could,
been.
so there could be more of it, and it irritates you. Maybe this is me too. It's a little bit irritating that it failed. I mean, really,
Failed how?
it
how?
failed financially. It
No,
failed.
it did not.
Okay, it didn't fail financially, but it got such bad hype that Justice League failed financially because nobody cared
Justice League
about the
failed
characters
because it
after
was
BVS.
bad.
It
It failed
failed
because
the
it was
general.
bad.
It didn't even have that initial boost though, which most people are going to be like go and see it because they want to see because they like people didn't even remember that Superman died like because it didn't have an impact. Like they didn't go see Justice League because they didn't like Batman versus Superman. It did
People
get that
saw it
terrible-
and they just didn't like. It wasn't good.
Justice League.
Yes.
People look at the numbers. People didn't like it's way lower. Like it was a box. Batman versus Superman was considered a box office hit. Okay, not like something called Batman versus Superman should get because of word of mouth that people didn't like it in general. But after that, Justice League even got less numbers because people didn't care. They didn't want to see more of that, and they didn't know the hit. Like normal people didn't know. Oh, they brought in another director to change this up. As much as Warner Brothers tried to change the feel and like, oh yeah, we're making this one like upbeat and up tempo and happy and comical and more like it still didn't make the money because people were not buying into this version. The general public was not buying into it. And I wish I can't say that I wish that it would have because then it would have possibly sucked. So it's really this like catch-22. It's great movies that unfortunately
I will say, if we would have had Zack Snyder's Justice League version come out after BVS, I promise you that would have brought everything back to it. Would have went
100%. 100%.
well,
100%.
people would maybe later. I think it would have caught like momentum, like video release and stuff. I don't think people would have went and saw a 4-hour movie.
Not even that far.
Yes,
So
I do.
What happens is a lot of the general consensus is the hype, right? So you get the hype. BVS was hyped. It was hyped all the way up, and then BVS happened, boom, and then because of the hypeness, they got a lot of attention, and then a lot of attention because of the hype with BVS. You had the two biggest names, and then it started growing, and then it just went from there. And then you get the first version of Justice League that was all over the place, and the people like genuine people who just love movies for whatever, seeing Justice League, the first version of it was like, what the hell is this?
No, they didn't. People liked it.
No, they didn't. No, they
So many
didn't.
people said it wasn't bad. I didn't mind it. So many people said that. I kind of liked it. I kind of
Overall-
like
For a Justice League movie, though, that's not a good thing. That's not a
Correct.
good thing.
correct.
All worlds are different too.
Correct.
But when the Zack Snyder version came out, it wasn't even pushed as much as the first Justice League was pushed, right? Once it hit, I swear, it was like a flame. It just everybody was like, boom, oh my God. People start texting each other. You start seeing it on
Right.
Instagram, Facebook. Everybody start talking about it. But why? It was that good of a movie.
Yeah.
It made it that good. So if you would have got that first version, it would just flame. And then guess what? DC and probably the Snyder universe would continue on.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? I said
Maybe.
probably, but I don't know.
I
DC
just
is
feel
so
like
weird.
sadly, very sadly,
Also, WWE is so weird.
BVS became a joke from the masses, and anything that had those characters in it was going to fail from that point on.
The biggest
Fail
the
financially.
biggest issue was WB didn't have the balls to back up what they did from BVS. The
Yep.
biggest issue is that WB they cracked under the pressure of people not liking the movie. That's the biggest problem. If
Even though it
BVS
was
had just
financially
grew,
successful.
yeah, if
That makes, like, no
WB
sense.
had just been like, okay, we don't care what you guys say, we're still going to put out Zack Snyder's version of Justice League
Yep.
and just do it. But they were like, oh, you know what? You're right. We screwed up on this movie. It wasn't good. You guys are right. Like that's what I think that's what killed it.
So it's funny because on the site I'm called the apologist, right? But initially I was called the dad,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking about how there's that whole saying, "This ain't your dad. This ain't your daddy's Batman. This ain't
You're
your
still
daddy's
kind of
Superman."
the dad. Yeah.
And that is what I'm running into. Like it's not the version. It's not Christopher Reeve, and you know.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to look beyond that in the rating, right? because I know that I got a little bit of a roadblock there. It's,
You
even
can allow
though
it,
it's,
though,
huh?
you know, if that's real,
I'm
you can allow
I'm
the
probably more
roadblock.
willing to accept like the next step than a lot
Oh
of people.
yeah.
And I'm fighting between an 8 and a 9.
Oh, those are both good though.
Those are both good. Yeah.
Both-
No,
both
I,
good.
I really, really like it. I more and more each time I see it, like I say, and I think it's a great vision. I wish it could be finished. I don't think I can quite give it a 9. I think I'm going 8, which is good, right?
8 is still good.
An 8's amazing, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give an 8 to a movie that I disliked any part of.
True.
Honestly, I
Sure.
would give like a 6.5 or a 7 to something where I was like, I really disliked this part, but everything else was amazing.
I wouldn't give an 8 to something that I'm not planning on watching multiple times, and I do watch it multiple times, and not just
Right.
because it's Batman, because it's a good movie.
Right.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy it.
Go to our YouTube, y'all. Our YouTube is Four Takes. Check it out. You get to see all of our rants, our walk-offs, our the cutoff screens, particularly cutoff Raheem.
All right, we will catch you guys next week.
Bye,
Have
chat.
a good one. All right.
Goodbye.
See you
Peace
guys.
out, y'all.